It was just fantastic. We showed up and there's 9 other Seawind owners. We all connected immediately and sailed out to the Anambas Islands and the middle of the South China Sea, which is just these just glorious, spectacular, untouched islands. They see very few tourists, Westerners, a few times a year maybe, and have this big rally come in there. And it's just been one fantastic experience after the other. But in that section, we actually have a escort. You're an escort there, the government escort.
Taking delivery of a new Seawind catamaran in Asia may seem quite daunting if you haven't sailed the waters. However, we've discovered that the Sail Malaysia Rally provides a neat roadmap through the region for the uninitiated. Paul Hooge and his wife did just that, along with 8 other Seawind owners, sailing with a flotilla of more than 25 boats. Join us as we speak with Paul on board his Seawind 1370 and discover how he went from next to no experience to sailing in Borneo, amongst other exotic locations. Paul, nice to catch up with you and meet you from afar.
Well, thanks, you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, fantastic. So we are speaking to you from Sydney at our office here at Multi-Hull Central on Sydney Harbour, and you're catching up with us from where now?
We are on Gaia Island, just off Kota Kinabalu, off of Borneo in Malaysia. Yeah. So it is spectacular here. We're in this little cove, and there's a 5-star resort next to us, but we're the only boat in here. It's fringed with great snorkeling reefs, so it's been pretty much the kind of stuff we've been dished to for the last couple months.
Awesome. So I want to talk to you about how you got from where you started to Borneo of all places. But before we do that, why don't you give us a little bit of background as to your story, where you came from, how you ended up on board a boat in the middle of Borneo.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's an interesting story. First off, I want to say we aren't affiliated with Seawind or the Sail Malaysia Rally or Multi-Hull Central or sponsored by them in any way. So I may sound like that because I'm a big fan of all three, but we're just on our own. So we were the furthest you could be away from sailing, or sailors almost. We lived in Colorado, in the mountains of Colorado in the United States. So if anyone's familiar with that, it's dead center in the United States, way up in the mountains, and we're mountain people. So I was a vice president with the bank, and then in my 30s, I went back to school and got a nursing degree and helped manage emergency rooms and intensive care units for about 30 years while we were in Colorado. We retired 3 years ago, and we had done a lot of outdoor adventures all over the world and pretty regularly. I'm a long distance runner, so lots of long running races, and
you're quite a long distance runner. Looking at your CV.
Yeah, I was enjoyed doing that for a long time, but it took us to a lot of places, climbed a lot of mountains, did a lot of exploring, and we did that on bikes and kayaks and all kinds of stuff. Meanwhile, my wife's father he's a big sailor in Marina del Rey, California. So we'd go out every year or so and sail with him. And my brother's also a big sailor, so we'd get on his boat, but we never took it seriously that we wanted to sail ourselves really permanently. But what happened is 3 years ago we retired, and you know what happens to retired people if they don't have some sort of purpose or interest, and we decided we better find something that scares us, that's completely out of our skill set and is going to keep us busy. And sailing came up, and it was really my wife's idea, and here we are few years later after making the decision.
Right. So this all started only a couple of years ago or so. But obviously,
Yeah.
So I'm hearing you're an adventurous spirit in other forms other than sailing. So what do you think drew you to cruising though, and the sailing adventure. What sparked that?
Yeah, we had a van and that we did a lot of trips on, and we really liked the idea of having our home with us, and being able to, set in places and adventure and cruising just really, we enjoy travel, international travel, and it really kind of clicked off all the boxes. Like, hey, wow, we can sell everything, let's make this a full-time thing, live on our boat, and explore the world and see how that goes. So it was in a way a kind of a natural progression for us, but we were a little, we had a little bit of experience, but we were mostly fairly clueless about what we were getting into. So it's been great a few years later be able to sit back and be here and be doing it and feeling confident about it. So if that's a shout out to anybody that's worried about doing something like this, it can be done, not without some work, but it can be done.
And so you've ended up, you've selected a Seawind 1370 that obviously built in Vietnam, Australian company, but you took delivery over there not long ago then.
Yes, we took delivery almost a year and a half now.
Gotcha.
Um, so we were lucky to get on the queue for a 1370. They were quite back ordered, as you're probably aware, and we a year and a half ago on New Year's Eve, we had the pleasure of being in Sydney on Sydney Harbor with Richard Ward, watching the fireworks go off, and we had intended on commissioning our boat in Florida. The thought of taking something like this on and being in a foreign country, much less a developing country, just seemed like too much. But he convinced us that it was be a smart move to commission here in Thailand. So we actually had a friend that was, strangely enough, from Boulder as well, that was getting a 1370, and he was kind enough to invite us on board. So we were able to go through the whole commissioning process with him and get on the boat and sail it for a few months and get that kind of experience. And by that point, we were fully on board. Like, yeah, we're gonna do this in Thailand. We're gonna accept delivery of this boat in Thailand.
Right, right. So you were originally thinking you'd ship the boat back to Florida and do the East Coast and down the Bahamas and that area, but
Right.
then Richard changed your mind on Sydney Harbour to go to Thailand. That's
Yes.
that's really
E- Exactly. And we're glad he did. It sounded intimidating first, but it actually is just a great commissioning experience. The Gulf of Thailand there is has fantastic sailing, several islands that are just beautiful with resorts on it. A lot of times you're the only sailboat out there in Anchorage, and um, it's very forgiving as far as the weather. A good place to kind of to learn your boat and um, be able to go right back and get the thing fixed that you broke. Uh,
So, would you tell us a little bit about that experience then? So, the Seawinds are built in Vietnam, but they recently rolled out, or a couple of years ago, rolled out delivery and pickup in Thailand, which has been a real success. Why do you think that is a success? Or like, well, tell us your experience.
So, I think Seawind was looking for more. They have great dealers everywhere, but I think they were looking for a more personalized factory type handover experience. I can't speak for them, but that seems like what they were looking for. And they decided that they found a great marina in Thailand, Ocean Marina, just outside of Bangkok and Pattaya. And then they also found a gentleman called Phil Harper, so a lot of people are familiar with, who is just a fantastic Australian guy who's been out in Thailand for most of his adult life, speaks fluent Thai, knows everything about Southeast Asia sailing, and he knows a lot about sea winds and boats and fixing boats. And he became their commissioning captain out there. And Phil basically sell the boats from Vietnam to Thailand and commission them there at the Ninth Ocean Marina. And stay there as long as you want. But we were there a year, and he was just very attentive, and detailed. In fact, he was fixing things we wouldn't even bring up and our notice. They wanted to make sure the boat was right, and the boat, it's a new model, so it had some challenges here and there that the older models don't have, and but they were right on it. Seawind was right on it, and Phil was right on it. They would send guys out from the factory to work on things as well. So it was a great experience. We got to sail a lot. We got to come back and say, "This needs fixing," and come back and have it fixed, and really just couldn't imagine a better experience for us, so
Yeah, this
that's
is a
great.
pretty relaxed environment and setup there at Ocean Marina, isn't it? And patio.
Ye Yeah, it's a resort area, and it's very safe. It's a 24-hour security guarded marina, and there's every kind of resource there you could want, so it's well suited, that sort of thing.
Okay, so you've come in, you've taken delivery of your new Seawind with Phil, and I agree, Phil's an absolute legend, and I think everyone that's gone down that path has had nothing but good things to say about the experience. But from somewhere along the line, you've gone from sailing, the plan of sailing in Florida, picking up the boat in Thailand, and now you're in Borneo, coming from pretty limited experience. So what you're obviously part of this Sail Malaysia rally now. How did that all come about?
Well, it's actually, I mean, it's a wonderful natural progression, to do something like this Sail Malaysia rally. Our initial thought was we wanted to do some sailing and some more sailing outside of the Gulf of Thailand, into Indonesia, Malaysia, potentially Philippines, before we headed over to the Mediterranean. That was our plan. Um, but how to do that, there's lots of different ways you could do it. The sailing down here is pretty forgiving. You don't have a big in Indonesia, you don't have a big typhoon season, and around Malaysia. It's generally pretty forgiving for a new sailor. You can get in trouble here and there, but overall it's pretty good sailing ground. And then talking with Phil, he didn't know a lot about the Sail Malaysia Rally other than it existed, and felt like this I think is gonna be a good opportunity for people to get together with, other boat owners, and specifically a lot of Seawind owners, and, have a somewhat controlled experience, uh, for thousands of nautical miles going through Malaysia and Borneo. So, I'm sure you'll have a picture of the map and stuff. You can see where we went, but the rally itself is organized by a gentleman that's been doing it for 30 years. His name's Sosley, and he's a Kuala Lumpur resident, and he has built relationships all over Malaysia, Indonesia, um, in different harbors and marinas, and just with dignitaries and people, and really set up a super cool experience. I can't imagine you could do this sort of thing in a more fun way, the way he has it planned out. So most people joined over in Phuket
Right.
on the east side or the west side of Malaysia, and went around. We had already done that section, so we joined it in a city called Terengganu, which is on the east side of the Malaysian mainland, and it was just fantastic. We showed up, and there's 9 other Seawind owners there.
Nine
Boats.
suets.
Yeah, nine Seawinds, which is great to see, and everybody's familiar with Seawinds, and you have some really experienced sailors there, and you have other sailors, which is great. And we all connected immediately, and sailed out to the Anambas Islands and the middle of the South China Sea, which is just these just glorious, spectacular, untouched islands. They see very few tourists, Westerners, a few times a year, maybe, and have this big rally come in there. And it's just been one fantastic experience after the other.
And how long's the rally go for?
So it started kind of I think in April, I believe, and then it goes through onto September.
Wow.
So it goes there across South China Sea, along the coast of Borneo, and then around Borneo. Um, and then from there, we'll probably go on to Indonesia. But this is great to be able to be with all these owners and have that kind of support. And what's great about the rally too, we were actually a little apprehensive. We like doing things on our own, even though we can benefit from having people around. So we're worried, we're going to be stuck with a bunch of boats and have trouble anchoring and this and that around everybody. But the rally's set up that you can go ahead, you can lag behind, you can get away from people. Sometimes we're with a large group of people and Anchorage and we're having a party and it's great. And other times we've had enough of that and we find a nice little anchorage by ourselves by some idyllic island and we're just hanging out, catching up with our stuff and taking a deep breath before we go do something else. But there's so many activities planned that you almost have to skip some or you
Yeah.
find yourself, rushing through it, which is great. You got enough if you're a busy person and you want to do everything. And if not, you got, opportunities to skip things.
And what sort of activities we talking about for, like dinners and what?
Yeah. So to start out in Terranoo, they have they had a big bridge opening ceremony for us. So they said, dress up your boats, let's look important. We took all our nobody had anything to dress them up, but we took all our flags out and we ran them up and made our boats look as interesting as we could. And they have this giant drawbridge, big, beautiful bridge, and everybody went under it at the same time. There were like 25 boats, and the streets, the side of the bridge were lined with Malaysians from the city just cheering us. Like we had done some around the world trip or something. Even though we had just scooted up the coast. Um, so it's great. We get inside that little harbor, and there's a marina there. They have people that will work with us on getting fuel and boat problems, and then they have a schedule where we're meeting with dignitaries, and they have a dinner for us, and one thing after another, and then time to explore the city, on its own. Um, so so really cool things like that. There's another experience, like really one after the other. We went out to the Anambas Islands I mentioned, and again, you felt like a celebrity. I mean, people just it would follow you around town. People would want to interview you, and you look behind you, and there'd be 10 kids following you. They had a a big celebration parade that they normally have, and they incorporated us into that parade as like special guests, and we held our own banner and walked in the parade, and they had a dinner for us with the dignitary from the island. So really cool
A lot
experiences.
of cultural experience out of it.
Yeah, yeah, really cool cultural experiences, and being able to experience the people and see their fascination with us, and then uh, them being just so eager to show us around their beautiful island. You know, so we'd meet in the city, and then they cut us loose, and we'd go out. They had 100 islands that were uninhabited and just
Wow.
beautiful. You can go diving and do all kinds of stuff. So, um, yeah, that'd be a couple examples.
And I imagine, having some guidance or others have, beaten the path before finding some of those new remote locations that are, I guess, far flung is a useful resource.
Yeah. Yeah, they're in everybody is chipping in information. So it's nice you get that kind of official guide from the Cell Malaysia, but that information changes all the time. And in these kind of countries, there can be challenges supplying and things do change. Um, but everybody's gathering information and we're all on a WhatsApp thread on several WhatsApp threads. There'll be threads that spring off of the other ones, but everyone's putting their input in like, oh, this is listed as a great anchorage, but it's not because of this. Or, we were told we could go on this island. We found out later that that one's private. Or, we're always exchanging information. So it is great to have that kind of support, and not have to find out as much stuff the hard way.
And the locations you're going to, I mean, they are, you know, not always the Western world that we're used to down here.
Right.
I mean, people often assume that there's or associate piracy in parts of these parts of the world. What's how has the rally guided you through that environment?
Yeah. Um, there has been really, a lot of the piracy stuff gets overblown out here. A lot of the piracy you hear about are on, big cargo ships, excuse me, and whatnot. As far as, yachts just go through it, it's actually very, very rare that anybody's had a problem. And when they do, it's, a dinghy motor stolen, or, somebody stuck on a boat, grabbed something. Um, it's rarely where, you know, lives been taken. There was a terrorist bomb in the north end of Borneo as you go past the Philippines, that there was some activity there where, some people lost their lives years ago. It's been over 10 years, I think, longer. Um, but in that section, we actually have a escort,
You have an
a
escort.
military government escort
Wow.
that will take us around that for several days.
Well, that's
So yeah, so we're actually having a meeting about that, in a couple days, and they'll tell us about, how far we can get spread apart, and about that escort. Looking at the danger again, oh, excuse me, we it happened years ago, and it really doesn't seem like a big problem, but they are very concerned. They want to make sure that there is no bad press, or obviously that anybody gets hurt. The rest of the areas up until now, I mean, just it, nobody's had any kind of crime problem, or anything to speak of. I think it's safer than almost any activity you could do in the world, in any way. Certainly safer than visiting any U.S. city.
yeah, yeah. And you mentioned what, around 25 boats in total then that the rally is sailing uh, together?
Yeah, I should have had an exact number, but it may be a little higher, but it's probably at least 25. Yeah.
Definitely some
Yep.
safety numbers there then as well.
Yeah. There's at least nine Seawinds. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, I mean, you would be getting some really exotic food, beautiful Asian food of various nationalities up there that you can explore. What about provisioning and getting food onto the boats and fuel and water? How is that being managed?
You're right. Surprisingly, in a lot of these, we do hit some larger cities, as we go down, and there's every kind of food, and really nice restaurants, and plenty of place to eat at, and then other places are more basic. But we love the food out here. Um, as far as provisioning, it's not as, plentiful as you might find someplace in Thailand. Um, Usually Thailand has some Western stores in town, if you're used to that, and that will have, products like that. But they have grocery stores that have everything you need. Um, People live out here, and get a hold of everything. We have marina addresses that were provided ahead of time, in big cities, where you can get virtually anything shipped to, that you'd want. And I know some people have even shipped drinks and whatnot. Um, so you can get things that way. Provisioning, like fuel, that can be challenging. In Indonesia, the fuel is pretty questionable. So you have to be real careful with filtering that. So we tend to avoid it. So far in Malaysia, the fuel is good quality, but it's often there's different rules, different places. It's rarely just pulling up to a pump and filling up the boat. It usually involves jerry cans,
Yeah.
and sometimes, getting a car and going around to various gas stations, and filling up jerry cans and bringing them back to the boat. But we all manage just fine.
Because I
Part-
imagine that there's not always, world-class marinas everywhere you're going either. I mean, you're really on, the edge of,
Yeah,
third world, locations up there in some parts.
the marinas are pretty basic. There's a couple good ones, but they're kind of full. We did in Miri here. We did leave the boat for a week and did some land travel, and that was a great, clean, well secured marina. That was fantastic. Here in KK, Kumbalu here, they have a nice marina, but it tends to be full, so they've set room for a lot of holes, really. So people are anchoring now. But you find everything you need. You're just not gonna, find those really fancy marinas. At the beginning of the rally, you go down, Phuket, Langkawi, um, and Pangkor. There are some really nice marinas there. So that is an opportunity to get some things.
What about ongoing repairs and, maintenance? I mean, the marine industry would get pretty thin, in some of these locations you're in.
That's right. I mean, you want your boat in good shape probably before you start. Um, that's for sure. And like I mentioned, you go into these marinas and like they have a factory, research factory for Myanmar here in Kota Kinabalu right here. You can find uh, resources for people to do a lot of different things, bottom paint, that sort of thing. Sometimes it's tricky. It's not going to be as easy as a lot of places, but again, you can get parts mailed. You can get most things done, and then you have a number of sailors here that are pretty experienced and are always willing to lend a hand. So I don't feel, with my less amount of experience, I don't feel vulnerable out here. I feel pretty confident.
I guess that is again, well, I assume having a whole bunch of boats with you, there's gonna be a heck of a lot of tools and, various, levels of experience that you can tap into if need be.
Right, right. We've had some people that have had to drop out of the rally for differing boat problems, engine problems, and whatnot. And usually it's not a catastrophe to have to do that. Usually, you can find a place that's big enough to get pulled out and sort things out with.
And Paul, what's, I guess, been the highlight for you so far on your travels up there?
Gosh, it would have to probably be the Anabas Islands so far. It's just so gorgeous being out there in the middle of the South China Sea with so few tourists and just beautiful islands. But really, it's just every day brings something new and interesting. The there are challenges too. Besides like the fuel challenge I mentioned, you have to check in and out of these countries quite often, um, because with every province, you usually have to check out and then check back in. But the Malaysia rally lays all that out. Sometimes you're spending half a day and you're going to four different places. Just get your boat and yourself checked in, but it's a minor inconvenience, but not a big deal. Other than that, every time, I mean, we saw orangutans, we done river cruises. I mean, so many tours and again, just beautiful islands. People are diving, snorkeling everywhere. Just really all you kind of dream of when you're out here cruising.
I think you put a good slant on it. It is a challenge beyond just travel. It's not really a commercial holiday like you get on a cruise liner. This is really, out there on your own steam and direction. And
Yeah, absolutely. That's the case. And of course, for us, that's what makes the adventure worthwhile. You know, we can always have that, but having those day-to-day problems and challenges, you know, that we have to solve ourselves, and having to look at weather and, you know, anchorages and everything, and carefully examine all this stuff is what makes the adventure an adventure. What's it fun?
How has the weather been for you and the conditions? I mean, you've sort of come out of the real typhoon zone, but it's still the tropic
Yeah.
zones.
Right. And so the weather overall has been great. Sometimes we get a perfect wind and we find we're just shooting downwind at we've spent a whole day doing 10 knots across on a crossing all night long. But other times the winds, it hasn't been, we haven't had any real bad upwind experiences. Generally, there's no wind, or we're able to do motor sailing pretty good. And then every once in a while, you know, like everywhere, you have these squalls that come in, and you know, you can get 40 knot winds just like that. So you better be, you know, ready for that. We did have one boat out here that had their screecher up, and it just got hit immediately with a 40 knot wind, and gripped the screecher, and was a big mess. So you still have to be aware, but really, you know, you're not going to get anything too more terrible than that.
Are you running a screecher, Paul, on your boat?
Yes, yes.
Use it a lot?
It's great. Yeah, yeah. We use it every opportunity we can. Anytime we're being to broad reach, the screecher really adds a knot or two to the boat, and we really like it. So
Particularly, I guess, in those lighter conditions, it's sort of famous for up there, isn't it? So,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. We just got a parasail, but we haven't got it up yet. So that's our next goal to do.
yeah. And how have you found the Seawind? I have to ask, Paul, how's the
Yeah.
Seawind 1370 treating it?
It's a fantastic boat, and I think, you know, I'm probably beyond bias at this point, because we just love everything about this boat. The more we're on it, the more we realize what a great boat it is for us. You know, we wanted a comfortable boat, but we wanted something that could still sail, you know, that had some performance to it, and something that had a good history with the company that, you know, has shown they'll stand behind it, and have built many of these. And Seawind just checked all those boxes off for us. And I mean, we're living in luxury. We The helm positions are amazing. It's usually a thing that scares people about the Seawind boats. Like, yeah, it's unusual to them, but once you get used to it, you realize you have great visibility. You're so connected with the salon and everybody on the boat, and you're protected. It's really a great thing. I can't see owning a different boat at this point. So it's been going great. We've worked out most every problem we had, and thanks to Seawind, and all's going well.
Fantastic. I must say, it must be a great boat to live on in the tropic zones. You can open the boat right up out at sea, but still
Exactly. These windows behind us, I mean, it's just the airflow in here is fantastic, and we've just been covering the side windows from the sun during the day, and it makes it a huge difference. We never feel like we need to run the AC out here, even in these 90-degree temps. Just get a little cool breeze through, and it's been great. So that's another big advantage about this boat. And you're not exposed to the sun. You've got this big boat roof of the cockpit, and, you know, yeah, we don't have that kind of sun and conditions hitting you.
Are you running extra covers, like out over the front deck, or boom covers or anything of that nature?
No, we're not. A lot of people are.
Right.
I'm not as much of a fan of them, because it seems like it blocks views, and the next thing you know, you got some big wind coming up, and you're dealing with that and putting it out and taking it down. And I found that putting the window covers on and then putting these sunshades like you have in a car sunshade inside of them does a fantastic job when the sun's really a problem. And then you can pull them out and you've got all your views and you're not dealing with that. But that's something that we found. Most people do like a big sunshade out front, and in Ocean Marina where they commission, there's a sail locker that makes them. They've got all the patterns down for every Seawind boat, so they can make you one.
And I assume that'd be the case with trimming, special covers, and wraparound curtains in the cockpit. It becomes quite a popular option that's customized. So getting those made
Right.
is probably the way to go.
Yeah, those things are nice. We got a bug screen built on for the whole trifold door area, so that's nice. You don't have to drop the door if all of a sudden you got a big bug problem. You just drop the screen. The Velcro's on, easy as can be. Lots of good offers for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the boat's so comfortable. It's just really, and it's once you get the sails down, it's just so easy to sail this boat.
And how many of you are sailing the boat? Is it?
So it's just my wife and I.
Yeah, right. Cool.
So it's just been us from the beginning. We've had some friends on, but actually no other sailors. So it's just us.
Oh, fantastic. That's a good test. It's a big boat for two people, but you've obviously got
It is.
set up well. Yeah.
It is, and we haven't sailed anything else, so we don't know any better. But you know, we do get on the 1260 now, which and we feel like, oh wow, this is a really, we could really control this boat. This is really, small, but so we don't know any better. So that's probably maybe that's good.
Yeah.
But we respect the power from these sails, man. We make sure we follow reefing guidelines, and we just don't mess around with that. We certainly see what can happen there.
Beyond the Screecher, what other sails are you running? Curious to know.
Yeah, so obviously our main jib, and then we have a spinnaker we pulled out a couple times, and then we just got, which I'm excited about getting out, we just got a parasail. We were at the boat show in Germany and picked up a parasail there, so we're super excited to get that out. I think that'll be a really useful sail for this boat in light winds.
Awesome. So what's the plan now, Paul? You're I guess coming towards the end of the Malaysian rally. Is that right? Or is still
Yeah, well, we got about 6 more weeks till September 1st. Is that about right? Yeah, about 6 more weeks. And that's a good question, and we didn't know the exact answer to that question up until a few days ago, and we finally decided we're gonna head on into Indonesia, and it's just a good opportunity to spend 6 months in Indonesia. We're gonna head over to Raja Ampat, and then eventually down to Bali, and just explore islands and do some diving and enjoy all that before we get back on the west coast of Thailand and pull the boat, get some work done, and figure out how we're gonna get over to the Med. Either sail there if we have the confidence, or ship the boat. We'll find out.
can always come and visit us in Australia, Paul. It's not that much short of the window, sir.
Love Australia. We'd love that. Unfortunately, it's like the wrong direction right now. We love that. We'd love to ideally we'd like to do a circumnavigation, but we're not doing that, and we're not letting that kind of goal affect our day-to-day plans. The bottom line is what's happening where we're at. Are we enjoying it? Are we ready to move on? Lots of places to see. From the Med, we'll go across back over to the United States and do the Caribbean. We'll want to eventually do that. So maybe head over to Australia at the end again. So we'll see.
Well, if you want to come and see the fireworks again, Paul, on your own boat or another one? We got a whole fleet of charter boats here that we could.
Well, we're definitely going to be out there. When we committed to this, when we started this, I'm like, man, this is a big commitment. We're just going to sell everything and move on to this boat. We're gonna have to commit to it for at least 5 years. But we plan on doing at least 10, living full time on the boat. That's the plan. But afterwards, uh, I'd love to go out and charter some boats in Australia. I mean, it's just fantastic. We had an amazing time. We were out there last year and just love the people and um, everything about the country.
So, well, we speak to a lot of people, really sitting on the edge a lot about taking that big leap, and to committing to the boat or to the lifestyle or to whatever. And a big part of it is, I guess, sometimes it's lack of experience, sometimes it's getting their head around. Often Thailand is a common location to pick the boat up. So do you have any advice for those sort of pondering the idea, but
Yeah.
struggling off the cash?
Well, I think, with YouTube nowadays and all these channels, it's pretty easy to get wrapped up into a venture like this. And it really is something that's reachable to most people. But there are certain questions I think that are reasonable to ask yourself, whether or not you're the kind of person that likes to fix things, whether or not, you're comfortable being out in the middle of the water and dealing with situations like that. But I think really, you know, if you're caught up in that dream, I think it's a wonderful dream. We have no regrets. We're very excited about what we did. But I think it's talking to people like you, talking to people, that are out there doing it and getting people's that are doing its opinion one on one rather than, kind of a fancy YouTube, video. I like to have a positive slant to the things I do. I just wrote up an article in Seawind about the rally, and the rallies, it is amazing, but don't think anything like this is going to be without challenges, and most people understand that.
For sure. For sure. Great advice. Paul, thank you so much for your time today. And I will strongly recommend everyone go and read your article. It's what prompted me to reach out to you today and have a chat, because I think it's a really fascinating part of the world. And the fact that there's even a rally that exists like this that you guys are doing with a mini fleet of Seawinds is just extraordinary. So it's testimony to you to get out there and do it and make the leap. So congratulations, and we'll follow you in your future travels.
Well, thanks. And just of note too, they're having Sail Malaysia is having another rally back to Langkawi from here. Indonesia has a rally, so look them up online and see what people's experiences were. But thank you so much for talking with me. I'm really happy to be able to share all this.
I appreciate it, really do, and I'm sure many other people researching will love this sort of detail and will continue to watch. So thank you, Paul, and we'll enjoy the rest of your exploring Borneo.
We will. We'll be posting an update too, so we can see where it goes from here.
Fantastic. Okay. Thanks so much.
All right. Have a good day.